A single dad mechanic pulled over to help a female cop. What he discovered changed everything. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the cold evening air like a silent cry for help. On the side of a nearly empty highway, a female police officer stood alone beside her stalled patrol car, her shoulders squared with strength, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion. And when a worn-out pickup truck slowed down behind her, she had no idea that the man stepping out would change her life forever. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of good hearts, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Grandma Dearie. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. Ethan Cole had spent most of his life fixing broken things. Engines, transmissions, shattered bumpers. He knew how to take something damaged and make it run again. But ever since his wife passed away 3 years ago, he hadn't quite figured out how to fix himself. At 38, he was a single father raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, in a small rented house on the edge of town. Every morning began before sunrise. He packed lunches, braided Lily's hair with clumsy fingers, and drove her to school before heading to his modest auto repair shop. Business wasn't always steady. Some months were tight. Some nights he lay awake calculating bills in his head. But Ethan carried his grief quietly, the way he carried everything else, without complaint. His daughter's laughter was the only thing that kept his world from collapsing entirely. That evening he was driving home from a long day at the garage when he saw the patrol car pulled over with its hood raised. The officer standing beside it looked composed, but something about her stillness felt heavy. Most cars sped past without slowing down. Ethan almost did the same. He was tired. Lily was waiting at home with a neighbor. Dinner needed to be made, but something tugged at him. He pulled over. The officer turned toward him, cautious but grateful. She was in her early 30s, her blonde hair tied back neatly under her cap, her uniform pressed and professional. Her name tag read Officer Maria Bennett. Up close, Ethan noticed faint shadows under her eyes, the kind that came from more than just long shifts. He introduced himself simply as a mechanic and asked if she needed help. She hesitated for a moment before admitting the car had overheated and then died completely. Backup was delayed. The nearest tow truck was at least an hour away. Ethan rolled up his sleeves. As he leaned over the engine, he worked with calm focus. The smell of burnt coolant hung in the air. The radiator hose had split, and the engine had lost too much fluid. It wasn't a quick fix, but it wasn't hopeless either. He returned to his truck and grabbed tools and spare parts he kept for emergencies. Years of running a small shop had taught him to expect the unexpected. While he worked, Maria stood nearby, watching him in silence. There was something about the way he handled the engine, steady, patient, almost gentle, that caught her attention. Most people saw a police uniform and kept their distance. Ethan saw a problem that needed solving. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft orange and gray, the engine finally turned over with a healthy rumble. Relief washed across Maria's face. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was real. And then everything shifted. As Ethan wiped his hands on a rag, his eyes fell on something inside the patrol car, a small, worn-out pink backpack on the passenger seat. It looked oddly familiar, too familiar. His heart skipped. Lily had an identical one, faded at the corners with a stitched butterfly on the front. Maria noticed his stare and quietly explained that she volunteered at a local community center for children who had lost parents. The backpack belonged to one of the girls there, a little girl who had recently lost her mother in a tragic accident, a little girl who barely spoke to anyone anymore. The world seemed to tilt. Ethan's wife had died in a car accident caused by a distracted driver. The pain was still fresh, still raw, and Lily, his bright, sweet Lily, had changed after that night. She became quieter, more cautious, afraid of losing anyone else she loved. Maria went on to explain that the girl from the center reminded her so much of herself. Years ago, Maria had lost her own father in the line of duty. She knew what it meant to carry grief like an invisible weight. Ethan listened, feeling a strange connection forming between them. Two strangers on the side of the road, bound by loss neither had chosen. But what truly changed everything came moments later. Maria hesitated before asking him something unexpected. She recognized his last name, Cole. She had seen it in a file connected to the accident that took his wife's life. She had been a rookie officer at the time, assigned to traffic control that night. She remembered the rain, the flashing lights, the crushed metal. She had never forgotten the little girl clinging to a firefighter's jacket, crying for her mother. Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. For years he had carried anger toward that night, toward the system, toward the driver, toward fate itself. And now, standing before him, was someone who had witnessed the worst moment of his life. Maria's